So Wayleadr, tomorrow is commuting today. Well, let's
Yes.
see.
So, hi everyone, and thank you for staying on for the Wayleadr portion of today's presentation. So, my name is Amy, and what I'm going to do is just examine some of the trends that we've seen in the changes in commuting since the beginning of the pandemic. So here at Wayleadr, we are in a unique position in that we work with occupiers across a range of different industries and a range of different countries. And these occupiers are from global giants to companies that have 10 to 50 employees. But what we've seen in terms of the trends in commuting has been pretty consistent. So I would love to share with you those learnings today. So in short, this is the TLD, or the future of commuting, and the future of the workplace is hybrid. So people are now choosing to work from home as well as work from the office. The future of commuting is electric. As people become more sustainable, they're choosing electric vehicles. And then PropTech needs to support these future trends. And PropTech is far more effective at supporting these future commuting trends than the manual management of commuting ever could be. So pre-pandemic, there was a lot of trends that have been massively changed by COVID. And what I'm going to do is jump into those right now. So here we have a quote from Derek Tyler, who is a transportation demand manager at Uber. And he notes that pre-pandemic, it was pretty standardized in terms of how people commuted to the office. So it was easier to manually manage these commutes. And on top of that, people generally accepted the pain points associated. But it was difficult to understand the needs, the habits, and the occupancy trends. So how COVID has changed commuting. So firstly, this standardization is no longer the case. And the fact that it was easier for companies to manage commutes manually doesn't mean that it wasn't without its flaws. So we'll jump into what those flaws were at a later point in the presentation. Secondly, working from home actually eliminated these pain points that were associated with commutes. And pre-pandemic, employees kind of tolerated poor commute experiences. They kind of felt it was better to deal with it than dial into the issue. But now that has changed dramatically, and people are realizing that not showing up to their desk drained from the commute is actually really beneficial. And then thirdly, the pandemic gave landlords and employers an opportunity to examine how people were actually getting to the office, and then put measures in place which would support them when restrictions were lifted. So before we jump into the issues that were experienced with the manual management of commutes, I just want to share some interesting stats related to how the pandemic has actually affected commuting. So pre-pandemic, there was actually only 7% of US workers that had access to teleworking. And now, according to the National Compensation Survey, this is approximately 56%. So that's a massive jump of 49%. The other thing is in 2021, there was a reduction of almost 10% in the number of people who were commuting to the office in a private vehicle alone. So that amounted to about 15 million people. And then thirdly, there has been an increase of about 142% of people that are working in a hybrid manner. So this massive increase in hybrid work, with employees choosing to either work from the office or work from home, rather than in a blended manner, rather than 5 days a week from the office, is now common practice. So workplace culture has shifted as a result, and it has shifted in lasting ways. So we can see from these generalized numbers that commuting trends and habits have been affected globally. And in these new worlds, this new world, the practices that were once the case are no longer going to be feasible for employees. So issues that were experienced with the manual management of hybrid commuting that we saw pre-pandemic. So to understand the issue, we first need to understand them. We are now just going to delve in to some of the issues that occupiers have seen and experienced with managing commuting in the hybrid work space. So the first issue was understanding capacity. So pre-pandemic, many and even now, many occupiers have strategies in place where they choose to place their offices. So they choose to place their offices in dense urban areas that's quite close to talent. But if an office is built for 3,000 people, there isn't parking that's built for 3,000 people. So the demand outstrips the supply. And part of the reason for not building a dedicated number of spaces is environmental reasons. Another issue that we saw with the manual management of parking cropped up during the pandemic as it related to pharma companies. So pharma companies in particular had different teams who needed to be in the office or in the factory at different times to make vaccinations. And it was very difficult to actually manage when they were going to be in the office if it was done so manually. Another issue we've seen is the manual moderation of facilities. So one of the occupiers that we work with in LA used to have their operators send a text every morning to all employees at 9:30 to say that the parking lot was filling up. Then an employee would actually have to send an email, stop they were doing to send an email to all employees when the parking lot was actually full. And a lot of people who received this email were actually in the parking lot, or they were driving to the office, so they couldn't check their phones and emails. So as you can imagine, for the people that had to press the send to all button, this was extremely stressful. For the people that were parked already, this was very annoying. And then for the people who were commuting to the office, this was extremely frustrating when they were showing up and there was nowhere. They found out when they showed up that there was nowhere to park. So the messiness really highlighted to this occupier that they needed a PropTech solution to manage parking. Another issue is the lack of insights. So many of the companies that we work with are located at multi-tenant sites, and garage spaces are shared amongst tenants. So when landlords use manual systems, it makes it hard to understand how many spots are actually dedicated to each of the office spaces. And then on top of it, it was extremely difficult to manage visitors, vendors, VIP parking. The other thing was that if there was an event taking place, it was very difficult for these occupiers to increase spaces just for the duration of an event. And it really proved an issue and a motivator for choosing a PropTech solution. Then, as we touched on at the beginning, the future of commuting is electric. Lots of offices are now investing in EV chargers. And when someone drives an electric vehicle to the office with the manual management of commutes, they didn't actually know where to park. Another issue is that they may have arrived, if they did know where the EV bay was, they may have arrived and a vehicle could have been parked there that was fully charged. And they had no way of actually communicating with the owner of this vehicle. And they relied on occupier or operators and admins to actually get involved. And this was extremely distracting for them, as it took away from their actual time that they could focus on their jobs. Then a loss of revenue is another big one that is an issue with manual management. So it makes it difficult for offices to share spaces with neighboring companies. It also makes it difficult for companies to charge employees for parking. And both of these are an opportunity for landlords to make money from properties. And then the last issue with manual management was the focus on drivers. So there was a huge focus on people who commuted to the office by car, and there was very little consideration for the alternative methods that people got there. Alternative methods including by foot, by shuttle, bike, or carpooling. So COVID really gave both companies and landlords an opportunity to examine their commuting programs, to examine how they were actually managing these commutes. And it really highlighted that to support the trends, they needed PropTech solutions. So just quickly, some trends in how occupiers are actually supporting hybrid working. So they're offering flexibility. So they're enabling people to do their best work and choose when they can do their best work. But I suppose it's pretty commonly known that happy employee is a productive employee. So ensuring employee happiness ensures productivity for the company, and flexibility is a key way in doing that. Another way is actually examining and understanding the full scope of commuting and the full scope of services. And companies are now offering shuttle programs, they're offering bike programs. Even some of the occupiers that we're working with have fun walking competitions where employees compete against each other for steps. So this employee happiness is key to retention. And people are no longer just choosing the company they work with based on the highest salary. They're really examining the full gamut of services and the ethos of the company they're choosing to work with. And then finally, PropTech solutions is a big trend that we've seen, and something we're very passionate about here at Wayleadr, as I'm sure you all are. So by employing parking management solutions, employees can commute more effectively, and they can reduce their environmental impact in doing so. So the landlord's role in supporting the new workplace and commuting trends. And landlords have a pivotal role in supporting, and we've seen 3 key areas for this. So firstly is flexibility. What worked back then doesn't work now, and it's probably going to be very different in 12 months' time. So that flexibility and willingness to adapt is key. It's also key to understanding that everyone has a common goal, and it's ensuring that people are happy and can do their best work. Then the second thing is providing technology. So landlords want to give tenants the best possible experience so that they don't decide to relocate when it comes to renewing their leases. And employers want to support their employees in a way that ensures that they keep coming into the office. For many employers, it's very important in terms of collaboration to have people on site. And this new world of commuting is still being understood by landlords, so they need to adopt and support their tenants. And then the last thing that we've seen is collaboration with tenants themselves. So it's key for landlords to support the rollout of technology if the occupiers choose to roll it out. And particularly in facilitating relationships and introductions in multi-tenant sites. So how people are actually getting to the office, as well as whether they're choosing to come to the office or not, has massively changed. And people are no longer, as we saw from that 15 million stat earlier, they're no longer choosing a single vehicle to come to the office, but instead choosing alternative commuting methods. And this has been largely due to the rise of consciousness around environmental issues. So IHS Markit estimated that by 2040, there is going to be 30 million autonomous vehicles on the road. So it's key that the facilities are in place to support this. So how PropTech is going to support this is in EV charger rotation. As we discussed earlier, it's extremely frustrating when drivers show up to the office and they see a car parked that's fully charged, and when they need to rely on occupiers and admins. What PropTech will enable people to do is communicate directly with each other, so they're not distracting and pulling other people away from their work. The other thing is flexible commuting. So with the flexible workspace comes flexible commuting, and PropTech will enable people to book their spaces on the days that they're choosing to come to the office. The other thing is that it provides live occupancy so that they can provide alternative commuting if they see that the parking garage is full. And then another part of this flexible commuting is actually on-site wayfinding so that people, when they arrive at the office, can find their parking or find the desk that they've booked, so that it really eliminates all of the guesswork and it saves people time. And then the last thing is that is showcasing the impact of commutes, by providing impact reports to employees. They can really see how the choices they're making are impacting the environment, and by understanding, they can make greener, better choices. So I suppose quickly jumping into the value of tech for SaaS and for landlords. So an investment in PropTech, it gives better experiences to tenants, while also gathering the data that enables landlords to make better, more informed decisions. So innovation is one of the key things with SaaS and PropTech, and it allows, it showcases to tenants or prospective tenants that the landlord is innovative, and is taking proactive steps to solving the current issues, as well as putting systems in place that will support future issues. And this helps, all of this helps with attraction, retention and renewals. The second thing with SaaS and PropTech is that it allows landlords to be agile. So it's quick to implement and get up and running, especially in comparison to hardware solutions. The third thing is that it can be replicated and scaled. So a landlord can pilot in one building and then roll it out across other buildings across the entire portfolio. And then lastly, PropTech and SaaS is a relatively low upfront cost in comparison to the more traditional hardware solutions. So this leads me to our video. Wayleadr is a PropTech that's supporting these future commuting trends. And I'm just going to share this quick video, which showcases our solution. So thanks everyone for your time today. And I will give you back some time to get and watch these matches.
Thank you very much, Amy. So what are you looking mostly forward to in 2023?
2023, I think, is seeing the future and how connected commuting is going to be so integral to the future of work. So how employees are going back to the office is going to change. They're not driving anymore, they're choosing a full gamut. And then the other thing is that in offices themselves, there's no longer dedicated desks. So people need a way to be flexible when they return to the office and know where they're going to return from, where they're going to be working from. So I think in seeing how Wayleadr pieces into that full puzzle and working with other PropTech solutions in mapping and navigating is really what I'm looking forward to in 2023.
Cool. Okie doke. Yeah, me too. So thank you very much. Great to have you with us today. And
Thank you
well,
for
I wish you a good day. Hope to see you soon.